wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Of course.
So before we get into your good work, I want to know first and foremost, 5 years ago, this pandemic was raging. We were trying to wrap our heads around it. All these confusing things, unknowns. Ultimately, how did you survive that time period, and how has it influenced the way that you live life and do things now?
Oh, interesting question. I haven't gotten that one
Good.
before. Um, it's interesting that you asked that because actually like one year, so 2019 is when I got my stage 4 cancer diagnosis. So by the time, and I was already cured and had gone through that journey by the time COVID or the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting preparation because I had already dealt with a great deal of personal uncertainty. And then when the pandemic hit, I was seeing that level of uncertainty in the collective.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't too shaken up by it personally.
Right.
I just kind of was already on a journey where I was like, we really don't know what's going to happen at any point. So I'm going to live my life accordingly,
Yeah.
And and so I did. And during that time I ended up, moving to before the pandemic, I moved to San Diego and then I moved to Mexico during and then ended up in the Amazon rainforest also during and met my now husband and dog all
Wow.
during the pandemic.
Wow.
So
That's
I know. So we both kind of just, I think we knew, I don't know, we were just both following our intuitions and um yeah, on our own journeys and not really too um not putting too much attention or weight on the chaotic elements that were a piece of the pandemic. And there were a lot of other pieces of the pandemic that were not chaotic, that were really taking people out of their comfort zones and inward and out. And that's what happened to us. So,
So do you think going through cancer during that, like prior to this,
mhm.
heightened your awareness, gave you an emotional intelligence, and opened you up to the universe to run into these things that a lot of people would not expect during a global pandemic?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I was, this might sound strange to you, but I was also almost kind of relieved because I felt so isolated during my cancer journey because I was 29 and I didn't know anybody who had almost lost their life like that.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of sitting on the edge for months and months and months um and my perspective had really shifted and most importantly, I didn't know anyone who had had such a perspective shift.
Yeah.
Except for there were some older cancer patients that were having that. And yeah, so when that hit, it was almost like people were saying things that I deeply understood. And I was kind of like, well, this isn't going to be easy, but I think there might be some silver lining, some threads that come out of this that are going to help everybody grow and understand like what's really important,
Yeah.
like what matters, like what do we really want to take care of, what do we really want to safeguard and prioritize when there's like, not much else, that we can put our faith in. And so it was a strange, weird thing of like I didn't feel as alone.
Yeah.
But I was also sad for people because I was like, it's not going to be fun. And I also had, and this is maybe TMI, but I also had because the nature of my near-death experience was illness,
Yeah.
had a lot going on with my own understanding of like what is illness,
Yeah.
what do our bodies do,
Yeah.
how do we react to things, what are they really trying to tell us? What was my body really trying to tell me? So I had a pretty different perspective of health as well, that I think helped me a lot too.
Well, and I think that's a good point because there was so many biological questions with COVID. Some people got it, other people didn't get it.
Yes.
Some was severe, some was minor. There, like the reoccurring nature of it, and there's still some people that didn't get it at all. So it's like there was nothing about this that was real because when it's the flu, everybody's going down. The whole classroom's getting sick, But with this, it was like, it was just like this person, it was like a Keno board. It was like, okay, there's going to be a couple that are going to get affected and others are going to be fine. So it was very weird. And I would imagine getting that close to understanding mortality and that proverbial biological door, that you're going to be thinking about it because you're already susceptible more going through that experience. Your body is going to be at a compromised place if you're dealing with something that's respiratory and strange like COVID.
Yeah, I had a pretty different so I studied biology in college and I taught biology to high school students. And then when I was just talking about this yesterday, when I went through my illness, I I had I started asking just some very different questions that I had never learned about in textbooks and nobody had ever taught me. And I come from a family of doctors too. So everybody's all well versed in Western medicine, and I was too. I would say the ideas that I started having were more along the lines of ancient traditions, if I had to put a name to it, or maybe some more modern people who are talking about energy and healing at the emotional level, allowing for physical healing and stuff like that. So by the time COVID came around, I actually wasn't too afraid about it
Yeah.
because I knew that my healing actually had layers and that the deepest layer had nothing to do with my physical body. The physical body was just a manifestation of what was going on at a deeper level. And so I know that's not something that people here in the US necessarily talk about a ton. Um, but where I come from, India, like it's my family's from there originally. Like this is well known. Even if people don't always practice it, it's not such a radical concept. But yeah, so that helped me in the sense I didn't really think I still haven't gotten COVID.
Wow.
Um, I didn't really think I was gonna get it. And uh I thought if I do it, it'll be fine. I'll just figure out, what's going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just definitely decreased the level of panic. One would think it might have increased it, but it didn't.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So let me ask you this. If I was the kids always pull the truth out. So if I put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, 12-year-olds, career day, the kid in the back of the room that's curious is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What's your answer?
I tell them I help people be happy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the simplest way to put it.
So I know coming from the culture in India is the kids, it's very highly driven. There's this expectation of
Yes,
really hitting the stars. So I'm curious, what was your dream at 12? What did you want to be when you grew up?
that's so funny. I wanted to be an astronaut
Okay.
and a doctor.
Okay. That's it. That proves the point. So let me ask you this. At the end of the day, what were the foundational elements that were the seeds that were planted that became who you are today to help lead people to happiness? How did this happen?
I always had a big heart, and I know that maybe sounds cheesy to some people, but I personally think it's something you can't really fake,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I came into this world kind of just like on high alert about the things that were bringing people suffering. And I knew, like, I think even as a child, I knew, like, you can't totally escape the shit. But I don't think it has to be like this bad.
Yeah. Right.
And so it'd be like, what can we do,
Yeah.
And I would write about it in school. I'd be like, I'm thinking we can, help people this way or that way. And I was always trying to like find a way. And it's because I genuinely cared. I don't know why. I don't know. I think one piece of it perhaps is that I could really feel a lot. I could really feel and I can relate to a lot of different kinds of people. And that was always something too that I had when I was a kid. Like I was very curious and I was never afraid of any type of person or anything. Nothing really. I was just interested and curious and felt connected. And like I just wanted to help. But then I also had this other piece of like, I don't understand the rat race. I
Yeah.
don't understand. Um, I was so good at school, but I remember when I was like when I first got Hotmail when the internet came out and
Yeah.
I was in like fourth grade, I think. I remember writing my friend an email. This was one of the first emails I wrote. Like, I don't understand what this is all about, this whole school thing. Like you go to school and then you graduate, and then you go to more school and then you graduate, and then you get a job, and then you try to get a better job and make more money. And I guess when I was 8 or nine, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I think I've also always had that questioning part of me of like trying to find the truth that sits the best in my body, in my heart, in my mind. And not that there's one truth, but just I think the process of questioning and trying to find your own way has meaning. So yeah, I think those are some of the seeds, just that curiosity and care, I think. And then a good sense of humor and just general wacky,
Sure. Yeah.
a little bit of spice, a little bit of,
Yeah.
just, I would never really felt like I fit in. And I think that's a gift.
No, I dig it. And I think too, depending on how you believe, but I think our soul's on a journey, and maybe the one before was probably maybe a little bit more peaceful, and this is kind of like jolting to see because really the longer you're on this planet, you realize we know what we need to do to get to that place of fulfillment, of taking care, of being humane, of doing the right things. And then especially now since January of 2025, we're like, what are we doing? Like how has the train not only gone off the tracks, but totally flipped off the bridge and it's like heading towards rocks and it's going to explode. Like we know how to keep the train on the track, but it's very strange. So
It's
so it's good that people do have that like in the realm of coaching, which has really gotten more voluminous in like the last
Yeah.
decade or so. People need this guiding light to figure out things. So my question to you is, what is one of the first things universally that you have to tackle to get people to get to that place they want to go to?
I think, for everybody, well, first, let me say this. When somebody agrees to work with me, that's already quite a commitment.
Yeah,
Not just financially, but like emotionally and
yeah,
like temporally. And so I'm always quite impressed when somebody's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay.
yeah,
I'm happy, of course, I'm overjoyed. But I
yeah,
also know that it's not always an easy road because it just involves some unlearning. And of course, if it were easy, then we would all already just be sailing right through,
yeah,
um, smooth sailing all the way through. So yeah, I'll say that first, I have a lot of respect for people who are like, okay, I want to do this. And, and they already have some sort of thing that's sort of shaken them or that's pressing that they're like, I need a change in this area. It could be every area of their life, or it could be one area of their life. And so I really pay attention to whatever that thing is because it's like kind of like my cancer. Like it comes, but it like comes with a lot of teachings and lessons and even guidance within what it is, like
yeah,
of like what exactly they're learning that will help them maneuver through this challenge, get on the other side in a better way, and then use those lessons for other areas of their life.
yeah,
So honestly, I don't feel like I have to do a ton. I really feel like I have to just really pay attention to like what is it that they're bringing to the table. And a lot of times they're scared. They have this they have this notion or this inkling like I really want to do this, but I got to let go of all this other shit first. Like I need to like get a divorce. I need to
yeah,
like stop drinking. I need to like do all these things and I need help. And so it's just like step by step by step. And I work with people for usually like minimum 6 months, but usually like I would say more than a year.
yeah,
And so it's nice to have some time and but like weekly
yeah,
to like chip away, and it's so non-linear, the journey, so it's like cool to be able to just sit and week after week sort of be like, okay, this angle,
yeah,
and then eventually they all figure it out because that's
yeah,
where they want to go
yeah.
you know
So, who's been a hero for you? Who's been that inspirational force that's allowed you to find this profession and that's allowed you to kind of, I mean, getting into your client's world, there's a lot of deep stuff that goes into it. So, who's been kind of that hero for you?
I have one. I never talked about him on a podcast, but he's an indigenous leader. He passed let's see, last year, in 20, yeah, at 110 years old.
Wow.
We were actually living there when he passed. His name is Kerobin Keta, and he's was the indigenous leader of the Kofan people in Colombia, in the Putumayo region
Yeah,
of the Amazon rainforest. And this man did a lot of good in the world. I think he's the closest I've seen to like a living, I don't know, Jesus or something.
sure.
I'm not exaggerating. I just he's helped people in every on every continent, and it's he left behind, he gave all of his money to his community to
Wow.
start a school. He built the school to teach the kids about, their to maintain their culture, their language, their art, their values, their respect for the land, their relationship with the land. And yeah, he just lived such a simple life, and yet he did so much for others. And he was smart. He was
Yeah,
so smart. And yeah, I often I often think of him, and when I feel like, I'm having a hard day, or I'm like don't know what the fuck I'm doing, some days. Or it's time for me to have growth or expansion in my own life. I'm just like, I just try to remember that, there are people like that out in the world.
yeah, for
So,
sure. So
yeah.
I'm curious, how do you balance getting into the heavy with people to help them out? I mean, you obviously have to walk into the things they're dealing with, but to keep yourself grounded, to take care of your soul, to balance all of that out every day. How do you do that?
Well, first thing is when I'm done with session, I work mostly virtually, except for my retreats. All my work is virtual. And so I really like that because when it's time to end the session, I
Yeah,
close my computer, I'm out. Like I'm very far away.
yeah,
And it's easier for me to disconnect because I'm so sensitive that I could feel a lot and very effective over the screen. But yeah, so first things like just that boundary of like it's not my life, and that helps me a lot because then when I do show up, I'm like in it.
yeah.
I'm in it with them and I'm present. But when I'm not there, I have to disconnect. And I've learned the hard way, Um, and I garden. I do things that are just completely opposite to coaching, like gardening, walk in the forest. I paint. I sing. I play different musical instruments. So I really get lost in the other part of my brain. Um, and that helps me a lot too.
But that also has to help you when you're coaching clients to find, because I imagine there's a lot of people that don't have outlets like that. And those are healthy outlets of getting your feelings and getting your emotions out and creating. So that probably
Mhm.
helps you be able to, coach them into finding something that makes sense for them.
100%. And a lot of my clients, more and more, there are sessions where they don't want to do like any talking,
Yeah.
or they want to express in a different way. So thankfully, yeah, I have experience in a lot of different modalities. So I'll bring it in. I'll be like, all right, well, get out your paints.
Yeah.
So,
That's it. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. So let
play
me
some music.
Yeah, exactly. Play some music.
Yeah,
So,
play some music.
speaking of fun, creative things, let's say you get into a room of all the clients and everybody that's known you in a business sense. You walk up to a podium in the middle of that room and you can tell them one fun story, one fun anecdote. First concert, you jumped out of an airplane, you wrestled a bear, outran a crocodile, something that they may not know about you, a fun story. What would you tell that room of people?
Lord, I have no idea. Like I I swear, man, like my fun stories are just like embarrassing stories. Like I feel like I've done a lot of fun things, but I never talk about it like, oh yeah, like I did this cool thing. Um, God, outran a crocodile.
Something. There people do crazy things, and it's always the people that I don't expect, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I had no idea. I I interviewed somebody at one point that every year they do one difficult thing. Like they'll fast for like some unbelievable amount of time and not eat food and only drink fluid. And one guy I think did wrestle a crocodile, and it was just things they didn't think they could do, and every year they do it
Oh
one time.
God.
So
Okay. Well, geez. Well, the craziest thing I've ever done, which most of my clients know something about, I don't. I don't always talk about it, because too much of that, they'll be like, who the fuck is this lady?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
um, is definitely, I mean, this elder, that we were living there, in the Amazon rainforest. And what we were doing there is taking a lot of psychedelics,
Yeah.
from this, elder.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's definitely after doing that. I mean, there really isn't. I don't feel like I need to do anything crazy.
Right. I get it. That's a great answer. That's
Yeah.
total. I totally get it.
So
Totally get it.
enough cups of medicine, and we are flying in every which direction and down, up, sideways, and yeah, like I've seen. Yeah,
I mean, you're playing music with the crocodiles. You're creating paintings with the bears,
exactly,
right?
exactly,
That's what's going on there. That supersedes
exactly.
all of this earthly mortal stuff. So let me ask you this. Of everything that you've done and evolved into at this point, what are you the proudest of?
At this point, I haven't shared a lot about the stuff that I've had to deal with in my life.
Yeah.
But a big part of my journey has been, like so many of us, has been overcoming my childhood trauma slash moving through it. And a part of that journey meant that I had to sort of restart like my family line, like not talk to anybody in my family. And that was a really, really difficult thing. And so for me right now, I'm extremely proud of the fact that I stand on my 2 feet and I'm a grounded tree and I have deep roots and I know who I am. And in at least one sense, I mean, there's a lot more to discover,
Yeah.
but in enough of a sense where I feel like I'm not going to get lost,
Yeah.
like so lost. Whereas somebody, I think, if my child self knew I was going to go through what I was going to go through, she would have been like, "Good luck to you, honey."
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I don't know about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So looking back, I'm just like, okay, well, I've definitely made it to some place where I feel like I can hold my own and I can create the family and the community that that feels true to me and true to my values. And I think that's a huge accomplishment.
Absolutely. So let's take it one step further. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are? There
Well, I'll tell you, I think I'm legendary.
we go.
I do. I love that word. It's something I use like in my quiet, inside my own psyche, because it's easy to minimize the work that we do,
Yeah.
honestly.
Hmm.
And I just try to remember that it's important, and it is legendary. And I think I'm also like hilarious and fun and um crazy, a little wild.
I dig it. So let me ask you this. If anyone wants to reach out, they want to hire you, they got questions, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
My website, poojabakhai.com, POOJABAKHAI.com.
And I will put all that in the show notes. This has been wonderful. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.